Hello, Christina. How are you doing?
I am excellent. I'm very excited to hear about some of these recipes that you have to share.
Yes, I think I have one really great one lined up, and actually we're talking about the second one later on also. But the first one was really something that I felt like a summer is coming up, right? And I think when we talk about summer, we think about friends, beer, and burgers. And when I was thinking on coming, since I'm obviously, as you know, since I'm in the burger business, I felt like let's come up with a great summer burger. And then the influence really to make it kind of deep and rich, I was really looking up the history of the burger to make sure that that burger made actually sense that I'm building up. So by looking at the history, I also realized that the burger is over 100 years old. And it's actually, yes, which is very exciting, right? And it was actually presented at the World Fair in St. Louis in 1904. And what's exciting?
Interesting, wow.
Yeah, it's totally interesting, right? It was a gentleman from Texas actually driving up to St. Louis during the World Fair and had served little patties between two pieces of bread, right? And then coincidentally also, we know that Budweiser is basically born in St. Louis in 1876. And they were big sponsors of the World Fair. So imagine that pairing between the beer and the burger basically traces us back right to the roots. So I felt like, the burger that I want to put up together had to be something with beer, but also like craftsmanship and some elements, and cooking with beer and elements which going in the beer. So first of all, I made a beer bun that actually is made with beer and also have some beer yeast in it. So that's really absolutely delicious when you're toasting it. In the same time, I made mustard here, which the mustard seeds, I actually soaked them in some hot beer and then folded into the Dijon mustard. That really, you have that old-fashioned mustard showing up. In the same time, I have another element here which is really great. Yeah, I call that shallot jam. It's literally, you can eat it like, or spread it on bread like you would do in the morning for breakfast. It's a shallot jam, which is actually the shallots are cooked in beer, a very old balsamic vinegar, and a little bit of sugar. And you can see how nice and tasty it is. And of course, the burger, I'm using a black Angus beef as a burger. But just to add another layer to it, I'm really using another cut of beef, which is actually a American Wagyu flat iron steak. And then you can see it here. I literally braised that in beer and some onions and carrots and all the good stuff, right, that I'm putting in there. But then I'm actually cooking it in for about 5 to 6 hours, and it becomes really, really tender like butter. And then when we have...
Oh, wow. And then, that sounds fantastic.
It really sounds fantastic, I agree. And also it tastes great. So,
I can imagine.
So what I'm doing actually to build up that burger, and also for when it comes to the recipe, right, from that burger, and also like a simplified version, the backyard burger, you can go on facebook.com and it's Bud United. So that's when you can get all the information about that fabulous big time burger. So what we're doing here, and also very often as a little trick or tip when it comes cooking the perfect burger, if it's in summer or even in the winter time, right? Imagine that the burger, really treat that burger with really respect, like you would treat basically a filet mignon or like a great New York steak, right? Where you actually sear it up nicely. You want to make sure those juices stay right inside. You don't press it down that you basically shooting the juices out and they're ending up in the grill or in the pan. You want to keep it inside. And in the same time, always when you have your burger, season it on the last moment so that the salt actually doesn't start curing the meat. That's another little trick that we have to remember, but you have to try it and you will see it really works.
That's a great tip. I like that. That's a good idea.
And of course, now that we really have seared that burger really nicely, and then you want to let rest that burger for about 3 to 4 minutes before you put on the bun so that juices are really evenly distributed. And then it goes way straightly down on the shallots. Now we're gonna add a slice of tomato on it. I want to put a little bit of sea salt on it, and as we know, with a little sea salt you have a little explosion of flavors when you bite into it, right? And of course, now the fun part is we're gonna pick up some of that flat iron, and I want to show you see how tender it is. It's basically touching butter. That's how tender it is, and that's how good it is. And of course, what I'm doing also, I'm actually taking some of those juices and I just drizzle them all the way down, so you can see that's really like a natural essence of beef broth and beer that really has reduced down. And then we're gonna add a little bit of sprouts on it. And here we have basically the ultimate big time burger. Actually, it's going to be for the summer, but I would say for the entire year round. And when you go,
I eat that year round. That sounds like any day I'll take that.
oh yeah, I mean, it's a whole meal, and I think you can really use that burger not just when you do the barbecue party in your backyard, but I think you can literally entertain your friends at home and then open up a bottle of beer, and like I said, not just drinking with the beer, but actually then cooking with the beer. So it's a perfect burger to entertain, either for a sit-down dinner or in the backyard. And then, like I said, over here is a backyard burger, which I really simplified, and I have the same kind of beef as the meat, the burger, but then I put a little bit of spinach, a little bit of blue cheese, and of course that shallot jam that I put on it, cooked in a beer. And then when you put that together, it's an absolutely great burger, also easier to make, because when it comes to that burger, when I was talking about craftsmanship, I think it takes about 6 to 8 hours to really build it, especially to braising the meat, right? But I think at the end of it, you're still the winning person by trying it.
That sounds great. Do you have any recommendations on the lean to fat ratio when you're making a burger in order to keep it nice and juicy?
Yes, I think the fat ratio when it comes to a burger, I would say it's about 20 to 25% fat content. And I think the fat ratio is one thing, of course, that we want to know that it really makes a good burger. But another thing that we very often ignoring also is making that burger by hand. Basically, you can either buy the grinded meat, but also if you really go to the butcher shop and you see that piece of meat, you want to make sure the butcher doesn't put all the trimmings in your burger, that actually that's the piece of meat that you want it to be grind up. And then just take it home and then build your burger. And then when you press your burger, don't press it too hard. Let it pretty light. And I think that makes really, it's like day and night when you cook that burger. It makes a big difference. It stays nice and moist and flaky, so you got to try it.
That's great. Now, do you have recommendations for which cuts of meat you like to purchase when you're going to grind the meat yourself?
Yes. And then I think when it comes to cuts on meat, I think I know not everybody will agree what I'm saying right now, but many chefs get involved in burgers, as you know, right? And I know probably I was the first one really put the name on a burger and have a burger restaurant. But I think sometimes we try it too complicated. When I read on a menu that a chef mixes maybe 6 different kinds of cut and makes it very complicated, just to make it complicated, I think if you have a nice piece of beef like a chuck and you grind it up nicely, or eventually you cut it by hand, very fine, and you just mix it together, that it barely, I mean, it's a winner. And I feel like we don't have to intimidate the viewers or the diners on saying, I make 6 parts of meat from 6 parts of places from the beef, right? Of course, it's going to be a great burger, but is it really going to make a big difference? I honestly don't think so.
Well, that's good to know. Now, we talk a lot about food and wine pairings. Do you have recommendations for food and beer pairings?
Yes, I think when it comes to food pairings, when it comes to beer, I mean, first of all, wine or beer, right? When it comes to beer, I think it really depends how you're building up that burger. I think if it's a simple burger, which not too many elements on there, or if it's like on the lighter version burger, you can stay with lighter beers. I think when you go into really rich sauces, when it comes to down, you can go from the lighter to a really dark beers with a little bit bitterness and really stands up to the burger. So I think when it comes to beer pairing, it's almost I mean, the element is almost as many beers you can use like you use wines now, because I think very often for many years, I think beers have been underlooked. We only do fancy wine dinners. But I must say, at Fleur de Lis, at the restaurant in San Francisco, at Fleur in Vegas, and the burger bars, we're actually doing beer dinners. And I think those dinners people get extremely excited about, because they're realizing that not only we're pairing, but actually we're cooking and with the beer and involving all those beers. And I'm originally from France, and I'm from east part of France, Alsace. And Alsace is known, that's the only area from France that actually we are known for great wines, but also known for great beers. So lots of recipes really where we're cooking with beer. I mean, we're cooking pork with beer, beef with beer. We do the famous onion rings with beer butter. I mean, anything which is good and tastes good, they usually involve a little bit of beer.
Well, it sounds like I need to go there. It sounds
Absolutely, you have to go to Alsace.
Now, I was noticing in your cookbook that you could make a burger out of anything, from the traditional, beef all the way to fish and pork. Is there anything that you found that doesn't work in a burger?
Anything that doesn't work in a burger, you're right. First of all, anything that you mentioned are great for burgers. I think we have to think a little bit outside, right? And being a little bit more adventurous when it comes to component to create a burger. So you can be very imaginative on that level. And I think the Burger Bar cookbook really shows that you can really go in the wildest areas and still have a great time. Things to avoid in a burger, I think not really. I think when you choose the elements, that's what it is. I think it's important how you prepare it and how you put it together and how you cook it. I think that's more or less where you basically can miss a great burger. But otherwise, I think it's like a sandwich. Everything tastes great in a bun. It just depends what you put into that bun, right? And the quality of the bun.
That's what makes it so exciting, is that the possibilities are endless.
I think the possibilities are endless, and also what we also neglecting sometimes, and we're just saying, okay, it's a bun, it's a burger bun. I think, there were times where a bun is like any other bun. Today, I think when we're talking about bread, I think it's a diversity of bread out there. I mean, it's as exciting that actually what goes into the bun, right? So you have different choices of bread. You can have additives to the bread, seeds. You can flavor them with herbs. You can go from ciabatta to some country bread. You can use a little muffin. So really, the ideas there are endless too. Or let's say, think about again, I'm from Alsace, where pretzels are extremely popular. I even think the pretzels coming from Alsace. Well, imagine instead of a pretzel, have a great pretzel dough, and you put that mustard on it, and you put the burger in there. I mean, it's another great element, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I enjoy some pretzel buns as well, and they're just mind-boggling. They're fantastic.
And they almost feel like they have made to be eaten with mustard, right? Because back home, usually you get pretzels because they're hanging on these little hangers in the bistro, right? And then you have the beer, and they put your mustard there automatically, right? So you have your pretzel in the mustard, and then you drink the beer, and when that comes together, it's like magic. It's as simple.
It is. Now, I have one last question for you. On our website, this week, we are hosting a hamburger recipe contest. So do you have any advice for the readers on how they can invent their own recipe for a burger and then potentially win the contest?
Yes, I think it's a good question, but I think I have an advice. I think when it comes to a contest of a burger, and when you're thinking, what can I do to that burger to make it really exciting? Again, very often we think in our thoughts, we are a little bit narrow-minded. We're a little blocked, right? Because we're feeling like, okay, cheese, bacon, burger, tomato, lettuce. But when you're cooking at home, and let's say you're buying, a great New York steak, you're buying a great pork chop, or you're buying a great piece of fish, you start on playing with it, right? And you start on cooking with it, and you're pairing it with lots of things, and suddenly your spirit becomes kind of free of thinking. Well, think that way. Think on that, looking at that burger, and imagine that burger as a great filet mignon, or like a great New York steak, or like a great piece of salmon. And then suddenly you will have those components talking to you. And I think that's when you're really taking off. And I hope you're going to win that contest that way.
Oh, that's fantastic advice. I'll definitely pass it on.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your recipes and all of your advice. And I can't wait to see what this big time burger looks like.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks for having me. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.